Diamonds in the rough. NFL Draft Diamonds. Time to shine.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams with NFL Draft Diamonds, and we are the scouting staff for the Hula Bowl. This interview is sponsored by Carl Black Orlando, Orlando's premier Chevy, Buick, and GMC dealership. They offer an extensive inventory on new and pre-owned vehicles. Stop by today just off of East Colonial Drive. Here with me today in this interview, I have Mr. Lachlan Pitts. He's a tight end out of William and Mary. Nice to meet you, sir.
Good to be here. Good to meet you.
So, yeah, I mean, a really, big, prolific tight end there out of William and Mary, who we saw fit to invite you to the Hula Bowl so people get a chance to see you in Orlando, Florida this year. But want to kind of at least, I don't know, figure out the story of Mr. Lachlan Pitts. So set the stage for us. Tell me where you're from, and we'll go from there.
So I was born and grew up in Great Falls, Virginia. So that's right outside of DC. And I come from a football family. I think my great grandpa, he played on the Orange Tornadoes back when that was an NFL football team. And then, you got to look it up. I'm not really sure exactly where it was, but they were called the Orange Tornadoes. Not sure why they're orange, but my grandpa, he played at UNC, and then my dad played at South Carolina for a couple years. So, and then I got two older brothers. One played at Furman and one played at Albany. Unfortunately, I never got to play against my older brother at Albany. Never got to go against him because he was a defensive end too, so that would actually been fun. But came from a football family, grew up around it, watching it and everything. I see you have Washington in the background right there because I grew up as a Washington fan, unfortunately. But yeah, no, just grew up around it and all. My mom actually got me into weights when I was 11 years old, so credit out to her. My dad taught me football, but he was busy on the couch for the most part. My mom was out downstairs kicking my butt in the weight room for the most part. So that's where I knew as soon as my brothers were going to college to play football, that's what I wanted to do. Went to Langley High School. Played there for 4 years, did a variety of different sports, just kind of grew up around it.
And then, of course, you ultimately, found your way to William and Mary. Kind of, talk about that story a little bit, like you and your recruiting, what ultimately led you to William and Mary?
So it's actually funny enough. I already knew about William and Mary and the area around Williamsburg because my parents got engaged in Williamsburg. So I had already known about it. Had been a big fan of the area, and then I really started to know more about William and Mary's football program when my brothers were getting recruited. And I was originally committed when I was coming out of high school to Richmond. Funny enough, the rivals. So I was recruited by them, committed to them early on before my senior year. And then at the time, Coach Rocco, who was the coach of Richmond, he left. I opened back up my commitment, and then I got an offer from William and Mary. So then it was pretty easy decision for me, just because I had known I had liked the area, liked the school and everything. And there's a big part of me for, getting a good education and playing football at the highest level.
Sure. So, I mean, you had some decent options. I mean, no offense to either school, but either location, I think, would have been, great for you. Both rich in history, which is great, but ultimately you decided to go the route of William and Mary. I do want to backtrack just a little bit here, Lachlan. I have in my notes that you did some basketball and track and field back in your high school days.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten me just a little bit about that experience overall?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing basketball a lot. That was actually like the first, like my first love was basketball. And in high school, I tended to be the biggest kid. We didn't have a lot of like taller people than I was. So I played a lot of like the center and everything. Um, so I guess if I wanted to get recruited to go to play basketball, I had to be more of a agile shooting guy, and that's just not who I was. So I was more like down low in the post type of guy. And I kind of started growing out of the sport, liking football more. Um, and I wanted to get into track and field because I wanted to get a little faster. I think I ended up being a little bit better at the field sports. Um, I think senior year, I went to regionals for throwing, doing shot put and discus. That tended to be more natural for me rather than running.
Well, hey, I mean, those things have somewhat contributed to your football success, I believe.
Mhm.
A lot of great tight ends do have somewhat of a basketball history, so pretty good to have that kind of, as part of your resume there for sure. And then
Mhm.
obviously, being a big dude like yourself, I mean, I think a lot of people, like you said to me, if you're the biggest guy out there, like, at your high school, I mean, they're going to just say, hey, go out there, play center, play forward, because we need this big guy out there just to get some rebounds and play some defense. So,
Yeah.
what is your current height and weight these days, if you don't mind sharing?
I am just a tad over 6'6", and then right at 260 pounds.
Wow,
Yeah.
so pretty good size there. So, obviously a guy who I felt really had a lot going for him, which is the reason why I did give you the call. And so we are expecting you to, show people that length in size that you have. I mean, when you come down here and get your official weigh-ins and stuff, even though you're a bit, a bit around like that 6'6" area, we'll figure out that, fraction once you get
Mhm.
down, once you get down here.
Right.
Um, so, uh, talk to me a little bit about William and Mary. Again, fantastic school. But I want to kind of hear it from you. Can you talk about your experience there as a student, what you majored in and such?
Mhm. So as a student, yeah, I majored in public policy in undergrad. I liked the mix of doing like kind of government and at the same time with like the econ aspect, like not just focusing on one. And then I always knew that I wanted to get my MBA from William and Mary because it is a great school and it has a good business program. And I was able to utilize that. Like it's a 2-year program, so with the COVID year and everything and redshirting, I was able to complete my master's there this last fall um, in the MBA. So
Nice. So, what would you think is like, I don't know, maybe one of your most difficult classes that you've ever taken there?
oh my god. I took a econometrics class, so that's like coding, like mixed in with like econ concepts and everything. And I was that one, yeah. Like I was no good at coding. Yeah,
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
yeah.
So I'll just kind of take your word in the fact that that's probably a very difficult class, but obviously you passed the course and you're, moving on with some, great degrees there from William and Mary. So let's go ahead and talk about your guys' offense. I know your guys are able to put together, good quality offense there, when it comes to you as a tight end and some of the pieces around you. Can you describe just for people that have never really seen you guys, how would you describe your guys' offense?
I would just say that like obviously we run the ball very heavily. I mean we're just a really tough like offense, and that's like um that's just how we like developed over the because like a lot of the guys that we had this year um they were the same guys we've had like the last couple of years. Like we were fairly young. Um and this year we were obviously like very successful in what we did because of just like we were able just like kind of trusting in the process that we had, that like we were just going to stick to what we knew that we were good at. And I feel like a lot of teams, a lot of people, that gets frustrating after a while after it doesn't really work out. But like everybody that was like still there, they decided, like, they figured that it was going to work out, and eventually it paid off, and it was like kind of vindicated at the end that, like, we were going to be a really good running team. Um, and we were going to, like, when we wanted to throw the ball, we were going to be efficient in it. And so we stuck to what our image was, and it worked out for us in a big way.
Gotcha. So again, just to kind of reiterate, really heavy run team, but
Yeah.
also giving you some looks there as a receiver. Kind of how you look at yourself fitting into that scheme, and maybe how you project yourself like moving on. I mean, what do you feel is like some of your best attributes as a tight end? I mean, is it that size? Is it your ability to run block? Is it your ability to be a quality receiver? Talk to me about those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the last couple years, I was able to develop, like, as a wide receiver, as like a threat. But I think a lot of the what I bring to the table is that you can be that 4 down type of tight end, which I don't like. There's not a lot of guys that are willing to do to like block on on most of the occasion, like 70% of the time. um and that's honestly my favorite part, is that, like, rather than getting like a 30-yard pass, which is really nice, is if I can get like a pancake block, like that's my favorite. So um I think it is just like that willingness, and it's hard to do, like, it takes time. Like, I was never like the best at run blocking and everything. It just takes patience. Um so yeah, like I think that's what I would bring, is just like my run blocking is probably my best attribute. Especially with the type of run plays that we run is the wide zone, and that's my favorite. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Uh, so a guy who is utilized as a receiver, but really loves putting his defenders like on their ass. So
Yeah.
certainly a lot of fun to do there for sure. Is there a guy at the next level that you try to aspire to be, or somebody that you're studying, or maybe even a fan of?
With run blocking, I always watch George Kittle, because of the especially with the type of offense they run. It tends to be very run heavy. Um, so they run a lot of wide zones. So we watched a ton of his film, and he was always like, he was really good at it. Like, the way that his technique used it, that's what I tried to utilize the most this year. Um, and always before every single game, I'd always watch a lot of Gronk highlights, just because, like, it was just like very similar sizes. So I don't think I could, like, I love watching like Travis Kelsey and like Zach Ertz, and obviously George Kittle too, with their passing games. But, like, the sizes aren't super comparable, and they're like a lot more agile with the way that they're moving on the field. I'm like, I don't know if I can like do it. Like, I'm more self-aware, so I feel like I move a lot more like Gronk.
Well, hey, I mean, the way Grant kind of moves is he just like, I don't know, it's almost like a tank. Like, you just give him
Yeah,
the ball and just boom, 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 like knock down people, like, in his path. So
yeah,
that's just
exactly.
kind of how it goes with him. So as a guy who obviously can be a quality receiver, what's your favorite route?
I like running either a corner route, where like someone's on my back and I can kind of push off of them using my size a little bit, or a little post. Those are my favorite, because I like to give a little, like, a little head movement at the top, and show off a little bit of quickness. But any
So
little seam too is, yeah, seams are nice, because you can kind of use your size to get on top of people.
So a little head movement, a little bit of business there that you get
A little bit
away
of
with as
business.
that push off, as you were saying.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
got to be careful in those sorts of things, but
Yeah.
certainly, there within the first few yards, you can get away with that sort of thing there for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
So, um, Lachlan, tell me about some of your best moments there for William and Mary, whether it be a game or a play. Is there maybe one highlight that's going to stick with you for years to come?
Um, I guess the the first game this year when we were playing against Charlotte, I had one catch and like a touchdown that game. But that moment is kind of really where it was just like, because for my entire career when I was in William and Mary, I hadn't been on a winning team up until last year. We went 6-5, and then this year we finished off at 12-2. So it felt like vindicating that we made it, and we finally it was almost like we arrived and we beat an FBS team for the first time since 2009. And so for me, that moment, and then to the last game with Richmond winning the CAA championship, like that was like the greatest moment for me as an athlete. Just like kind of going from that start, we were like, okay, we are a good team, and then we were able to finish it and get a championship ring at the end.
Awesome, man. Well, I mean, certainly getting that championship ring in the CAA, certainly something to be proud of for sure. I know that there's a lot that you've accomplished there. I mean, whether it be obviously getting your degree, being named first team all conference, being a team captain also. Which of those things are you really most proud of that you've been able to accomplish?
I think being a team captain, because I think being a good player, being a good student, and everything is very important to me, and the goals that I set out for myself. But at the end of the day, for me, it was all about the team. And for this last year to be named a team captain, like to have my teammates believe in me to lead the team, and especially to the type of season that we had this year, like that was definitely the most special part of it.
Awesome. So, do you want to kind of give you the opportunity to give a little bit of love to those guys who did name you team captain? Give us a couple of names there for William and Mary that we really need to know, whether it be some guys who were some of those awesome seniors this year, or maybe some guys coming up in the program that we can expect to see in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta shout out my guys that have been with me the whole time since I've been here, Trey Watkins and Carl Fowler. Those are the only guys that were left from my class that made it with me to the end. They were also team captains with me. And then Colby Sorsdahl, he's been with me during this like whole process and everything. He was I was always next to him with like a lot of the blocking and everything. So like we got our techniques down, and we would talk and like pick each other's brains about how we block certain plays and stuff. So my development as a blocker and as a player like comes a lot from him. And then I gotta give a shout out to my coach Jack Armstrong. Coming from like as he was I played with him for 2 years. For most of my time with him as a player, as a captain, and as a coach, he like was somebody I always looked up to, and I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for him. So
Gotcha. I do want to get a chance to also meet you outside of this game of football bit. So certainly a very interesting name there, Mr. Lachlan. I don't know any other person in the entire world with that name. So I don't know if you can kind of enlighten me on that one. But anything else that you want to share about yourself, whether it be your hobbies, your interests, your passions, maybe something that not everybody knows about you. Give us something that's not football related about you that's interesting.
yeah, so my name is Scottish. I also have never met anybody with my name yet. But yeah, my name is very heavily Scottish. That's my whole family is Scottish and Irish, and they got all into the Scottish names. And I'm not exactly sure where the story came from, but I thought I heard it from my mom that like the credits were going down on the movie Braveheart, like we were talking earlier, and she saw one of the actors' name was Lachlan, and that's where like they're like, oh, it's a pretty cool name. In my free time, I guess my second best sport, honestly, is ping pong. I got really into ping pong when I got here. I kind of like taught myself. Like I played with it with my parents and everything, and my brothers got really competitive. But when I got to school, that's where I really got it. Like so, that's I played a couple professionals in ping pong before. I've lost both times, but I didn't play them as bad as you think. Like, yeah, it was pretty close. So
Well, hey, I mean, it's fun
yeah.
to be able to at least really be good in another sport there for sure. I don't know professionally what it would do for you, but I mean, hey, it's
Yeah, I
fun.
don't think. Yeah.
But you had mentioned there just slightly about a particular movie. So, I mean, I'll just kind of go that route now. So, do you have any favorite movies that you really, really like, cling to, like that sort of thing?
Ooh, so I watch a ton of movies. So I grew up a lot watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies because he was just like my favorite actor. So I watched a lot of Terminator. I watched a lot of Total Recall, and then one of the newer movies. I'm also a Leonardo DiCaprio fan. I love The Departed. Those are probably my three favorite movies.
Fun, fun. Well, I mean, at least it's more than just like, the Braveheart thing because the
Yeah.
name and such, but certainly a big fan of some other people. Um, a guy who grew up in the Virginia area. Tell me about your hometown, man. Like if I were to come visit you in your hometown, is there like a hot spot there that people need to know? I mean, I don't know. If I were to come visit, like where would we go?
So in Great Falls, it tends to be it's a smaller town, but they have this little village area that everyone likes to go to. And I would have to take. I don't know if you're a big ice cream fan, but they have a homemade ice cream place right in the middle of in Great Falls. It's called the Great Falls Creamery, and that place is good.
Well, definitely some places that I think I've probably driven. I know I've driven through, so I just kind of need to
Mm,
stop and get a little bit of ice cream there.
yeah.
Next time I make that drive. So, fun, fun. Obviously, Lachlan, we're moving forward. You're done there at William and Mary. You're in a legit NFL prospect, which is one of the reasons why we gave you the call to come down to Orlando for the Hula Bowl. I know that there's going to be a whole lot of NFL scouts at our game. As of right now, it's about 150, and it's going to continue to grow. So you're going to get a chance to sit down with all those scouts, all from all NFL teams, USFL, XFL, CFL. A lot of guys are going to be at the Hula Bowl, going to want to meet you. And so I want you to give each of them and everybody else really just your pitch as to why you need to be drafted and brought into their program. So go ahead and hit them with your pitch.
Yeah, I mean, everything about my life and growing up and has been about football. I like when I got to school, like I cared about um, being on like more than anything else is like being on a team with the guys and everything, and just I love football more than most people, and I'm gonna be a student of the game, and I'm gonna work my butt off more than I've been playing college football for 6 years, and I never wanted to stop playing football, so I'm ready to go to the next level and keep doing it. So
I mean, definitely a guy who is a team player, who is a very willing blocker, who's takes more pride in that than almost anything. But certainly a guy who can go out on like like a post route and get open and get some touchdown catches for any team. So and then when you come to the table with a good quality size that you have. I mean, again, about 6'6", 260 pounds. I mean, certainly somebody that I feel needs to be on everyone's radar for sure. And hopefully you'll get a chance to showcase those talents at the Hula Bowl January 14th. Going to be on CBS Sports Network for people who want to watch it there. But nice sitting down with you with this interview. All right, man.
yeah, no, it was great. It was great to be interviewed by you. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Once again, I got with me Lachlan Pitts. He's a tight end out of William and Mary. Definitely check him out.